You want me to start?
Yeah, Patrick. Yes.
Hi, everybody. My name is Porrick Call, or Patrick. Porrick, the same thing. I'm one of the founders of Clonakilty Distillery in Ireland. We set up the company in 2016. We started distilling ourselves in 2019. What I like to do at the start is maybe play a little video before we start getting into the samples that you have, just to sort of set the scene as to where we are, where we're from. So let me just play. So let's get a video file here. There we go. So hopefully the sound will work. That's not playing, is it?
It is.
Ah,
Yep, now it's coming up. Yep.
perfect.
The story of Clonakilty Distillery starts just outside the town at the Gallyhead Lighthouse, an area of incredible natural beauty. Our fields at the foot of the lighthouse are the perfect environment to nurture and grow the finest of barley, exclusively for our own uniquely Irish single pot still whiskey. Centuries of sea mist, soft rain, and salty ocean spray provide a complexity to the soil that permeates right through to each individual grain. The Scully family, founders of Clonakilty Distillery, have farmed this coastal land for 320 years and 8 successive generations. As custodians of this majestical slice of coastline, we trust our soil, our Atlantic maritime climate, and our untouched water aquifers. At the distillery, here at the waterfront in Clonakilty, we use this barley, in addition to barley carefully sourced from local farmers, to produce our own distinctive new make spirit. Our 3 beautiful copper pot stills have been handmade to perfection by the family of farmer Barrison in Italy, who have a tradition of craftsmanship of more than 100 years. Specifically designed for a triple distilled Irish pot still whiskey, the stillhouse is largely manually operated, just giving Paul, our head distiller, the opportunity to fine-tune and lovingly handcraft each individual batch. The tall neck stills naturally produce an elegant spirit, while the unique mixture of malted and unmalted barley will give the spirit its wonderful complexity that can only be achieved from an Irish single pot still. For cutting our new make spirit, we source the purest of water from our own dedicated well at the Scully family farm. Remote and unspoiled, the water is drawn from deep within the ancient rock formations by our ocean cliffs. Cold, unadulterated freshness, generously gifted by Mother Nature herself. This cutting and cask filling is done on the family farm at our Atlantic Ocean warehouse, 200 feet above sea level by the cliff edge. It is where we mature the finest of whiskies. Pure, clean air, transported across thousands of miles of Atlantic Ocean, providing a freshness unspoilt by human intervention. This is a magical place with a unique and special diversity of climate. Like the ocean itself, it is ever-changing, from the wild Atlantic storms to the glass-calm reflections of a perfect summer's day. In this dynamic, natural environment, the whiskey will only sleep for a short while, instead interacting with the wood and the angels to develop a unique and distinct maritime flavour. Just as the alcohol vapour evaporates from our barrels, the sea salt-laden air permeates through the wood, over time imparting its unique flavour to the whiskey inside. 120 years of farming the land at the Known, we're used to living on the edge of Europe in a place apart. Now is the time to embark on a new journey, to give something back, to share, to craft spirits that feed the soul. We invite you to join with us on this very special journey.
Okay. So,
Hey, Ray, good to see you.
Oh, good to see you too, Alan.
so that's a little video that you see when you go on the tour, just to sort of set the scene for where we are, a little bit of the ethos that we're trying to sort of impart. Locally grown barley, water sourced locally, everything local, everything traceable. So that's one thing, being a relatively small distillery, obviously we can do, whereas the larger guys just aren't able to do that. So maybe before I continue on talking, maybe we should start with one of the samples. Ken, I can't remember which order. I don't have the dots. Do you have the dots?
Let's start with the yellow.
And which one is that?
Oh wait, let
Sorry,
me
I
pull
just
my
remembered we're dots. And
double oak.
the double oak, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
So it's going to be
Or-
this
or-
one.
Or do you want to start with the single malt, the red dot?
No, I think we can start. This is the one I wanted to start with as well. It completely slipped my mind that we were on dots, but this is the one
Yeah.
I was going to start with, because I think the running order we did the last time was fine. I think it was good for everybody. So
Yeah. So let's
This
start
is-
with the double oak. It's a yellow sticker at the bottom.
So we started distilling in 2019. The company was set up in 2016. So we sourced our whiskey, and this is basically the final, let's say, tasting that I will do, which will be 100% source whiskey. We're launching our single pot still in Ireland in 12 days' time. So, and we're launching it here in the US at the start of September. But what we did was we acquired a lot of whiskey between 2016 2019, put it in the warehouse that you saw in the video, and left it to mature right beside the ocean. The warehouse is an interesting construction because it's designed in such a way that the air from the seaside goes in at the top through vents, and then there's vents on the bottom on the other side, so it creates the full flow of the sea air right through the warehouse. And it's always windy there. If you were outside the warehouse for 5 minutes, you'll taste the salt on your lips. It is really, very close to the ocean. So we call this a double oak because I'll show you a picture of. We have matured it. Obviously, 99% of Irish whiskey starts off life in ex-bourbon casks. And then we work with doing some finishes with it. And one of the finishes that we do with this double oak is we finish it in what's called the Neoc cask. I'm just going to share this from my computer. Okay. Can't remember how I did it the last time. Share screen. Window. Oh, here we go. So Neoc is basically the guy who sort of invented it, calls it the sort of next generation after STR casks. So STR casks been popular in Scotland for the last 10 or 15 years to help sort of speed up the maturity. What he does, these are all red wine casks from Bordeaux. They're hand-shaped, first of all, and then they are cold toasted for 1.5 hours. So you can see what he does there. He puts the sort of the charcoal bucket down the middle and just leaves it for 1.5 hours. And what you see here on the right-hand side is the result of that cold toasting. So the single batch double oak, we're on like version, this is like batch 20 I have here, but you probably have a higher batch than that. We started using this around batch 4. and we entered it into San Francisco. We got a double gold straight away, and we have double gold twice with this whiskey, World Whiskey Awards Best Irish Blend as well. So it's finished in both the Virgin American Oak and this Neok. So I think with the Virgin American Oak has some nice, interesting flavors coming out of it as well. But the Neok, I think, adds this sort of nice finish to it. Warm spices, the grass, hazelnut, almond notes out of it. And it's I think it's a really nice balanced whiskey. And this is our biggest seller in the US at the moment. Used to do port cask, but now this is our biggest seller. And I think it's the three whiskeys that you are going to be tasting are actually interesting, because when I do tastings in liquor stores, I find that different consumer tastes go for the three different ones. This one is the people who like Irish whiskey, who've tried Irish whiskey, who know Irish whiskey. I want to try something, I think a little bit finished differently. We'll always go for this one. What's the feeling on it, folks?
Hey,
I'm
Ken,
loving the nose of this.
do you know what's the batch number, Ken, on your bottle that you gave us?
I'd say, Ken, it's probably 24. I would say it's probably 24, because that went up to, it was up in Chicago.
Loving the nose on this. It's a very complicated nose.
I would say it's not your typical Irish whiskey. I think a lot of Irish whiskey is maybe less complex. And I find that when I'm talking to people over here and I ask them, have you tried Irish whiskey? And, they always say they have, but they've tried a couple of brands that are very popular. And obviously, thanks to those brands, we're here in the first place. But I think there is this sort of disconnect where they think Scotch whiskey is sort of more complicated whiskey and Irish whiskey is more sort of straightforward. And we're kind of saying, well, actually, that's not quite the case. There are some very interesting things being done in the Irish whiskey space, making, trying different finishes and stuff, and, adding the complexity to, this standard, ex-bourbon cast Irish whiskey, which a lot of people have just tried.
It doesn't, for me, this is Julius. Sorry, coming in late, but it doesn't smell like your typical, like you said. To me, it's like a blend of bourbon and Irish whiskey for me.
Well, I think the bourbon comes from the Virgin American Oak, right? From the tannins of the American Oak.
Yeah. What's the proof on this? I might have missed that.
43.6 ABV, so that's
87.2.
So a little higher than the regular, because usually Irish whiskey that you come around is 40%. I like the higher proof. That's good.
Yeah.
There may be some subliminal thing going on, but I smell sea air in this glass.
That's not the first time I've heard that, and it's a question. Yes, is this because you saw the video where those casks have been right beside the sea, or it is there? You can get it. I mean, I think
I was gonna say I get kelp, like the sea.
Yeah.
Kelp.
We're all going to have to come back in 5 years' time and taste the whiskey again, and then see what an extra 5 years is going to make to this. But in terms of the 80 proof Irish whiskey and Scotch and everything else, we haven't done that, because to get to 80 proof, you basically have to chill filter it. And chill filtering is one of the processes that actually takes some of the flavor out of whiskey. So we basically try and do everything to keep as much of the flavor that you have in the cask when it's, being we're getting ready for bottling. It comes out of the cask at whatever, 119, 120. Try and keep as much of that flavor in the bottle. And so we don't do chill filtering. We add water very slowly. We do what we call the gentle cut. Gentle cut is adding water over 10 days, 14 days, depending on what's going on. Slow proofing is another name for it. Old Elk in the US also do the same thing. I tried an Old Elk bourbon one time, and I said to the guy, I said, "That's amazing bourbon." He goes, "Yeah." He didn't know who I was. He said, "Yeah, we had water very slowly." I said, "Okay, I've heard about that." And they actually have it on their website, the science behind the slow proofing, as they call it, where when you add water very quickly to alcohol to proof it down, you create heat and you create evaporation. The molecules all break apart. When you add water slowly, none of that happens. And they've done the science behind it. We've done it just basically by blind tasting whiskey, the same whiskey with water added in one shot and water added over 2 weeks. And there is a difference between the two. So this is something that not everybody can do, because if you go up to our warehouse, what you'll see is whiskey in these containers all over the place as we're adding water very slowly. So again, if you're a big whiskey producer, you don't have the space, nor do you have the time to do that. But it's something that we have, and we're proud of it. And I think it's one of the things we like to talk about with our whiskey. So, even if we do get a bit bigger, it's not something we're going to change.
Actually, we had a tasting with Waterford, Mark Rainier, a few days ago. They do the same thing. He was talking about, slow proofing down. I think they do it close to or over a month period, my understanding. So, and he claims that, I don't know whether you had the same when you taste it, when you add water to proof your whiskey down as you're drinking, you don't dilute the aromas at all by doing the very slow, watering down, during the maturation or, during the casking, basically. So.
Yeah, no, well, there is science behind it. I didn't realize they were doing it now as well. So. Okay.
That's what they say, so I think, I haven't heard anybody in Scotland doing it. It seems like, you may be the only two in Ireland doing that.
With the process, do you add an even amount of water over the 14 days, or is it a larger percentage at one point and then you lower it? Or
I think the first one is it takes it down to, or it takes that down to like 58, 57 or something like that, and then it's slower. So the first one is a little bit faster, but it's all not creating that exothermic reaction, the heat, doing it as much as you get slowly as you can.
Yeah. I agree with Julius in that this is giving me some of the like vanilla and cherry and spice notes of like bourbon, but it's like softer, and it reminds me of like a cherry Bakewell treat. Like bourbon's like more aggressive for me. So.
Yeah, it's a smoothie, right?
What is the grain in this one?
It's a blend of malt and grain.
I've had a lot of Irish food. This one reminds me of, I forget the name, but they had something about the kelp or seaweed tasting. Start with the C.
Cara?
Yeah. And then it has a little bit of mix of silky. That's another one. Yeah. Really, I love this. This is really good.
Patrick, is this, I'm looking at the color here. It looks pretty light. I'm assuming there's no E150A in it?
Correct. That's another thing that we don't do. We don't add it. And it's, again, some people look at it and they're sort of wondering how old it is. Everything is between 5 and 10 years old in there. So no real young whiskeys in there, but we're not adding the color. It's a little bit, some people don't understand it, but obviously you guys do, so I don't have to explain why we don't do that.
Am I weird to say that I get pineapple at the end? Not so much.
No, you absolutely do.
I said that the last time.
That's right, you did. And I've never heard that before.
It's like a roasted pineapple for me. It's real. I love this.
It's amongst the juiciest Irish whiskeys I've tasted. Very juicy. I mean, the aftertaste is very
good. Well, that's, yeah. So as I said, it's our flagship whiskey. So we're quite proud of that. The second one, should we move on to the next one?
Yeah, we'll do single malt red.
Yeah.
Red.
And sorry, guys, I'm doing it in the car because my son's state practicing soccer for state semi-state finals in 2 days. So had to do this on the run.
Hey, brother, drive
There's
safe.
no
Drive
cops around.
safe, please.
So,
Oh no, yeah, I'm fine.
so this
I'm
is
barely doing anything.
Oh, gee. Big blast of butter to the nose. It's like popcorn butter.
This one is actually double distilled. So it's a double distilled single malt, finished in red wine cask from Chateau L'Arcadon in Bordeaux.
Is that what it says on their website? The galley head single malt? Is that what
No.
we're drinking? No.
And the Galley Head single malt is a 40%.
Oh, okay.
So this is basically the same whiskey, except it's at 46%, not at 40.
I totally get the butter popcorn.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a whole blast of it.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, that's what you smell with moonshine, not with whiskey. And that was a little shocking.
I always get a sort of a honey out of this one on the nose.
I can
Yeah,
see that.
I get a lot of honey too. Yeah.
I get buttery popcorn with honey drizzled on it.
It's funny. I wonder, obviously every distillery has its tasters who do the tasting notes. If you put 10 of the top people in a room, in 10 different rooms, and gave them the same whiskey, how different would their tasting notes be? I wonder.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. It's like I tell everybody, everyone's got a different palate. They're like snowflakes. No two are alike, but you can find people who are close.
Yeah.
I'm loving the nose on this.
Now I get everything and a Snickers bar when I do the taste. This is delightful.
Chocolate is very dominant. I get very chocolatey feel.
Yeah, I get that. You get Snickers, nuts, all that mixed in a caramel. That's why I call it a Snickers bar. And then you put that all in with some buttery popcorn, and you're eating it.
There's a little tiny bit of cherry in there too.
So this is source too, right? So is your single malt that you're about to put your own distillate, is that going to be similar style to what are you expecting this to be a similar style or a totally different style?
It's going to be totally different because it's not going to be a single malt. It's going to be a single pot still. So it's going to be using the unmalted barley. So it's going to have this so I suppose the closest whiskey to it would be Redbreast or Green Spot, or one of the spots, which would be, so it's a more viscous type of whiskey, more spicy whiskey. So it's more like the quintessential Irish whiskey where you're using the malted and the unmalted barley as well. So
I would say try to mimic this. This is different and this is good. Both.
It is good. It's interesting because what I said when people say, "Oh, I'm a Scotch drinker. I don't like Irish whiskey," and I say, well, try this because the double distillation obviously, it's a more sort of a heavier spirit. But I think the finish in the red wine cask is interesting. I think it adds a little bit of more interesting flavors to it as well.
Definitely.
Could you talk about maybe the decision, obviously putting source whiskey out in the market?
Yeah.
Brings the income, puts the brand out in the market, but now you almost have to start re-educating the marketplace about who you really are, right? From your spirit.
Yeah, I mean it's a good question. It's one of the things we've always been sort of transparent about this. That although this isn't we didn't distill the liquid, we're trying to show the quality of what we're going to be producing in the future. And so going forward now from May onwards, we will have the single pot still, and we'll have the blend, which will be single pot still and grain whiskey, which we will be sourcing outside. So we don't have a grain, we don't have a column still in the distillery. I suppose the reason why is it's it builds up the route to market first of all. So you're building up your brand. You're talking about your brand. You're figuring out what works, what doesn't work. It's funny. Sustainability, traceability, all of these things were not of interest to anybody in 2018, 2019 when we started, but now they're big, and they're something that people ask us about all the time. So when we started the distillery, this was one of the things we wanted to be strong on anyway. So I think we were sort of right in going that way. But it builds it. So it starts conversations about the distillery. It brings people to the distillery who then, once they visit the distillery, they sort of become ambassadors for the distillery. So there is a lot of advantages to doing it. There is obviously, you're selling whiskey and there's some cash flow benefit, but basically the marketing costs are put back in. So there isn't really any sort of profit element to it. It's rather just brand building and market and having conversations with people and understanding what works, what doesn't work, price points also. Everybody thinks their whiskey is the best and it's going to be, for sale and to be sold at $10 or $15, $20 more than everybody else's, but the reality of the market is obviously different. We think it's the best. There's a lot of other good whiskeys out there, so you're competing in a tough market. But that's the thing. So we know basically where our whiskey and where the brand works and where Irish whiskey sort of sells. Because again, you can just look at it, you can get reports, a million reports. Where does Irish whiskey sell in the US? But that's not really where we are, because that's just basically where Jameson and Tullamore Dew sell. It's not, where we would sell. And I tell a story. So Sean, who's the farmer, Michael, who owns the farm, his son Sean is out in Oregon, and he moved out there because his girlfriend is out there, and he's selling and he's doing very well out there. But when he was going from Ireland to Oregon, we were launching in Massachusetts. I said to Sean, listen, spend, a week in Massachusetts going around and then, just meeting the liquor store owners and explaining everything. This is like in 2018. And then, go to Oregon. And then, so after a month or two, I was looking at the sales in Oregon and the sales in Massachusetts. And, we were really doing very well in Oregon, much better than Massachusetts. And I said to Sean, I said, what's the difference in the two markets? And he said, well, in Massachusetts, the first question is, how much does it cost? And in Oregon, the first question is, what's your story? Tell me who you are. So, these are also interesting things that don't come out in the statistics. So we do very well in Oregon because people like our story. It's authentic, it's real. And when I show people the pictures of the barley fields and stuff, and they're saying, well, is it real like that? I said, well, just get on a plane and go. I'll tell you exactly where the field is. You can see it.
Well, and I think the other thing with Oregon is they're really big on sustainability there. That's your whole story, plus the single malts, yeah.
That's what I was going to say. The single malts and the taste that I see here really, in comparison to Oregon single malts, the American, they're really similar in regards to the nuttiness and the sweetness. And that bourbon / Irish whiskey mix. I don't know if anybody else can compare that, but for me, when I've had the Oregon area and this, they're really similar. So I could see why they really pull that in the taste.
Maybe I'm the only one who got salted strawberries out of this.
I wasn't thinking salted strawberries, but I was thinking it was definitely chocolate.
Sorry.
Oh no, there's like this chocolate I had not long ago from the Chicago chocolatier Sausages. I can't pronounce it properly, but it's like a marshmallow with caramel there and dark chocolate and a sprinkling of like black sea salt.
And you got my attention.
I just got the Snickers, and I get a tangerine, not so much strawberry, but a citrus. So I get a tangerine or something like an orange. But that's, like I said, anybody's flavors. It's what I can come together with.
Well, the official tasting notes talk about oak, spice, cinnamon, clove, nutmeg, vanilla. So, that's what the official ones are anyway. But as you say, everybody has everyone has their own. But it's a 92 AB or 92 proof. But I think it's not that, it doesn't drink that hot. I think it's nice.
No.
Oh nowhere near.
Nowhere near. It actually, for me, the both have been like around 40%, really smooth.
What price point on double oak and the single malt?
I'm sorry?
What's the price of?
Oh, they're pretty much the same. They're at $49.99 both.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Where is there anything in the West Coast that they can get, like Total Wine or anything like that, or is it special order?
On the West Coast, well, we're in California. We're not in Total Wine in California. But we're pretty strong in San Diego, pretty strong in and around the outskirts of San Fran, Sacramento. But
you might be at High Times, so I'll check them too. High Times?
Where are you? Well, I can text the guy while we're talking and ask him where the nearest store is. He'll tell me because I don't really go.
So there. Well, I live in Utah, so I have to travel outside the state to get stuff. And where I'm from is California in Costa Mesa, and there's a place called High Times Wine, but they carry a crap load of awesome whiskeys, Irish whiskey, everything. So I'm hoping you guys are in there.
Well, our guy is actually in California at the moment, Costa Mesa, COSTA.
Yeah.
Yeah, I keep forgetting you're in Utah.
I still owe you a sample of mine, so it's coming. It's just been busy.
No worries.
It's been a crazy year, or year and a half already. So
hopefully in a good way.
Yes, it's my catering business, and then my son with soccer.
Bravo.
And so,
I don't know if you guys ever seen though. I picked this up at a rendezvous, like they do like the 1800s kind of thing, and they made I guess a goat horn into a whiskey glass. You guys see
How
that?
cool is that?
Oh, very nice.
That is very cool.
Yeah, and it has a wolf. I don't know if you guys can see it. The wolf logo on it.
Yeah, no, that's very cool.
Yeah.
Where do you get all this? Julius, where do you get all this stuff?
I'm a traveling man, so anywhere I go, I try to find unique stuff. That was actually
all sorts of unique stuff in Utah.
It was in Logan at a farm that was doing baby pet days for spring, and they had this rendezvous place where they lived the life, or like they customized the life of like in the 1800s and wild out there, and they made this, and I saw that and I was like, that is awesome, and it was only $10. I was like, done.
Sweet.
But yeah, this Irish whiskey is amazing, so hopefully I can pick that up.
High Times, yes, High Times have a stocked.
Sweet.
Okay,
I will pick that up.
Shall we move to the next one, the podcast?
Yes. Sorry. So the
Thank
third
you for that.
final one
Is that the green dot?
Yes, green dot, yeah.
So in my non-scientific but lots of tastings, I found that the bourbon drinkers go for this one more than the other two. And partly, I think, because of the port cask finish adds a little bit of a sweetness to it that you don't get from the first two. Sorry, just cleaning out my glass. So port cask, obviously finished in port casks from the Douro Valley.
This is straight out peaches and cream. This is peaches and cream.
Yes. And that is exactly the tasting notes of it.
I don't get a nose so much, but I do get the creams, like a creamsicle, orange and creamsicle at the taste. The nose is very light. Almost.
So this would be the same. So basically, the same blend is going into this as in the first one, and then it's only the difference then that it goes into port casks, and the first one went into some virgin American oak and the neoc that is shaved and retoasted barrels.
And what's the ABV on this?
ABV is the same as the first one. So
33.6. Thank you.
Yeah, the nose for me is a little very light bourbon, like the first one. I don't pick up too much, but it is to me like a very sweet creamsicle, liquid creamsicle, 50-50 bar, right? Orange and vanilla.
But I think you can get what bourbon drinkers with the high corn, sweetness would be sort of more attracted to this than maybe the first two.
I'm a high proof guys, and this is very light. This is like on the third. The middle one was my favorite. I don't know. Both the first and second one are pretty much tied.
I think these are three very different whiskeys that are all very good, but they are they are it's not a build on a build on a build. These are three totally different whiskeys.
Exactly. They are.
Completely agree. Yep.
Yeah. So I think as we move obviously into where it's our own single pot still, that difference, the differentiation between the lines isn't going to be as much as it is now. That's for sure. So that's
and I get a lime. This is very fruity. I get a lime.
I do too.
Almost like a margarita, like a lime. It's interesting. This is very sweet and fruity. This would be great on ice on a summer hot day, or rocks, just cold.
Yep.
This is beautiful. I like this too. But ranking wise, the other two are a little higher.
I definitely like the single malt the best, but it would be a tough slot for 2 and 3 on the others.
Yeah. Yeah, that buttery popcorn chocolate, like Snickers, that hit me good.
That was killer.
Yeah. That second one is my favorite out of all the three. That really hit the spot.
I'm with y'all. I like the single malt the best.
Yeah.
This has me, even though I know that it's not your own whiskey in there, this has me very curious as to what's coming down the road.
Right. Yeah.
Well, we will get we're launching on Whiskey Live in Dublin on, I think it's the 17th or the 19th of May. And then we're starting to ship it over here then. And we're launching September 1.
Okay.
In the markets, in all the markets we're in, which I think we're in like 18 states now. Something like that. So, it's 40, so it's 92 proof, non-chill filtered, obviously. The other thing we do the minimal filtration. So one of the things that, obviously, when you're taking whiskey out of a cask and putting it into a bottle, you have to filter out the char. The standard filter is an 8 micron filter. In Ireland and in Scotland, we use a 31 micron filter. So more, again, trying to get as much of that flavor that is in the cask into the bottle. And it seems to be that every process that you do takes away some of the flavor. So we try and minimize that sort of, minimize the any changes to the flavor as much as we can. Obviously, when you proof it down, there's nothing you can do it's not the same as what it is in the cask, but generally we've seen what really the 8-micron filter does to whiskey. We've seen what the chill filtering does to whiskey. So we try and stay away from it as much as we can.
Patrick, are you part of the actual Scully family?
No, I'm not. Michael, I knew Michael, or I've known Michael for like 20 years. That's actually a funny story. He had this idea to start the distillery, and first of all, he wanted to do vodka and gin because of the way alcohol that was coming from the cows, right? But
right.
He sort of quickly figured out there's not an awful lot of money, or if you can't compete with the big guys, or if you can't hand make your vodka in Texas, then you're in a tough market. So he figured out whiskey was the way to go. He asked me to help him because I'm a CPA to put together the business plan. I said, Michael, I'll put a business plan together, but I don't really know too much about whiskey. So we went off to Scotland. We went over to Islay. We spent time with Anthony Wills in Kilhoman. We toured as many distilleries as would let us in, and it was great. I learned an awful lot, and then I said to Michael, "Okay, I'll do the business plan, but I want to get involved in it as well. Not just putting together some numbers on an Excel spreadsheet." So I really got into the whiskey, and I felt of all the industries that I sort of worked in, the whiskey industry is the one where people share their knowledge with you more than any other industry. And even, distilleries do things slightly differently, but they're not really afraid to tell you that. I mean, they're not going to give you all their profit margins and how much they're selling to this distributor, that distributor, but they'll tell you the basics to say, listen, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, do this, do this, do this. So it was really great for us. And I was pleasantly shocked, pleasantly surprised at how open all of the distilleries that we went to were with us. Maybe they took pity on us. They said,
no, that happens in the United States too.
Yes,
they're your competitors, but they're not.
Exactly. So, and the other thing, so Irish distillers, obviously Jameson and all the rest of the stuff, are also very good for the smaller guys. They do a lot of courses on wood management and different things to pass on some of the knowledge that they've learned over the decades. So it's good. Yeah, it's a good community to be part of. And again, as you say, we do collaborations with some of the smaller distilleries in the US. We've done collaboration with Catoctin Creek, for example. We did a barrel swap with them. We've done a barrel swap with Garrison down in Texas. And everybody's really sort of open and helpful with us, Great. So without all of that help, we wouldn't be where we are now. That's for sure.
Oh yeah. No, this is a community that's unlike any other.
Yeah, no, that's for sure. That's definitely for sure.
Yeah, they believe in growing the market together. So that's what I like about this.
Yeah, I think so. Also, if you want to look at it from a little bit of a selfish point of view, the big guys don't want to have any bad whiskey out there either, right? So it's in their interest to make sure that everybody keeps at least some sort of level of making good whiskey. So, that's fine. That nobody wants any bad whiskey out there either. So, it's good.
So you said your release, your make is going to be out in the market by this September?
It'll be in the US in September. It will be in Ireland in the next 2 weeks. Yeah.
So wonderful. Okay. Congratulations.
Maybe we'll do a little tasting in September then.
Oh yeah, that's after Whiskey Maven hiatus. We usually do one before the Halloween. So yeah, that'll be nice.
That's true.
Look, we'll have it in the market. I'd love to talk you through it. it would be a bit late to get our distiller on to talk about stuff. With what time is it now? It's 2 a.m.
Meanwhile, those who joined late, I'm going to share with you a surprising spirit from Clonakilty. I won't tell you now, but when you get it, Erin and Ellen are next door to me. So I'll get this across to you, and then Jeff, I'll see how I can get it across to you as well. And
Sounds
Julius,
great.
you too.
Amazing.
It's very, very revolutionary, very different, amazing. It's a gin. It's not a whiskey. But I hope someday they'll make whiskey out of it.
Well, actually, legally we can't. Because I think the definition of Irish whiskey is has to be made from grains. So I think legally we can't.
Okay, we're in a tornado warning. I got to go.
All right, listen, take care.
Be safe.
Oh, well, be safe.
Be safe, Jeff, and thank you for joining us. Thank you. Yeah, so wait, I'll end the live stream and then we can chat.
Yeah.